Wow. Hello. What a great intro that is. Howdy, howdy. Hi, hey, hello again. Good morning
Hey,
and
Power
hello.
Girl.
Hey, Liberty. Hey, everybody out there in the chat, everybody out there in the ether world. Happy holidays, happy new year. And we got a great show ahead of you today.
Welcome to the Liberty Cowgirl Network, everybody. Happy New Year. We got a great year planned, and I'm so glad to have Power Girl with me this morning. Now, we've got incredible breaking news. I'm sure everyone is glued to their television sets because we got this House of Representative vote happening as we speak. And right now, we're seeing that McCarthy does not have the votes uh, that were expected. And that's what's happening right now. As a matter of fact, here's the vote count. McCarthy's got 158. Jeffries got 159. Donald's got 18. And that's it so far. So
Sounds like it's neck and neck.
sounds like it's a fifth speaker vote. Another vote is forthcoming. He just doesn't have it. And like I said, this is breaking news right off the press. We'll keep an eye on it as the show is happening here. But what do you think this means?
I think it means we're progressing. That's what I think it means. I think just the fact that Andrew didn't slide right through like he thought he was gonna is a huge plus sign on our side.
I think you're absolutely right on that. I mean, listen, anybody who doesn't have their head under a rock right now, which is most of America, they've kind of pulled their head out of the sand. We all know that McCarthy is a rhino. Uh, and it's not good for any of the American people if this man becomes Speaker of the House. Quite frankly, none of them. So the larger and broader question is we know what's going to happen here. They're going to go back for another vote. What is some of the back chatter that's happening now? I don't know if you were listening last night, but I was just following some of the backroom chatters on, some of the open source channels, and all kinds of things can be likely. There are some that are saying that somebody, Mr. T, could be nominated. And everybody said, well, how is that possible? Well, I didn't even know it was possible up until, about a week ago. I and yeah, I'm sure the average person thought too. You have to be an elected official in order to be the Speaker of the House. But it turns out that's not the case at all. So, you
You
know,
know, Liberty, one of the most valuable things at Mr. T, you can say whatever you like to say about him, but the one thing I always like to say about him and give him props for is that he really has given us over the last 6 or so years a real lesson in how our country and government works. Wouldn't you say so?
you know what? I absolutely agree with you, and I don't like it as people have bunched people into like, oh, you're Maggie, you're this. Quit putting labels on people. We all like him. He hasn't done anything to hurt us or take us backwards. He's only progressed us forwards. But in the same note, we can't have the MSN along with others out painting people like Trump is a prophet or something.
Right.
That's not what we are. What we are is we're just educated people analyzing and looking at the facts.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, I think that that is what the left tries to point, paint us as. But I think at least the friends of mine that are patriots are, have a very pragmatic approach to Mr. T. They understand that he's done a unique service to this country in opening our eyes and kind of, ripping open the veil so that we can see. And then he's also, I mean, watching as I've watched his presidency and what's happened afterwards, he's also given us just a very valuable demonstrative lesson in how our civics, how it actually works, because at least here in California, Liberty, we are so dumbed down, no offense to anybody listening, that we really don't know. I mean, I can't come from a Christian school education where you get a little bit of an elevated education, and there is still so much that he has taught me just by demonstrating how the government works in real time.
Well, I think it's been a real eye opener because we've all been asleep at the wheel. I don't think it, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say any of us are dumbed down. What's happened is that it's been a methodical plan
Yes.
to withhold information and knowledge that we otherwise would be given, and we would be aware of these things. But when things are purposefully being hidden,
Yes.
superior power structures, it's simply not to our avail to take those under consideration.
Right. We just don't know what we don't know. That's actually a really good correction. We're not dumbed down. We don't know what we don't know because the mainstream media is just not giving us the full picture.
Right. It's incredible up until this day. So we're seeing where Jeffries is actually pulling out in front of McCarthy at the moment with 189 to 178. Um, Obviously, that third person, the Republican Donalds, is not even in contention with that.
Right.
Uh, but I think what's needed for that vote is what, 222. Did I hear that right? Yeah. Oh, 218 votes needed. Uh, so we'll see what happens. But until they can uh, agree on a Speaker of the House, this bodes a much larger question. Business is stalled for the American people. They cannot convene, they cannot present, they cannot vote on matters that are so important to the public. So this is probably the most important thing happening at this very moment, aside from what we all know is coming up on the 6th, which is SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States. For those that don't know what SCOTUS is, because there are people who
Oh yeah.
don't know that, they're just tuning in and waking up. Um, their decision whether they're going to consider uh, putting the Brunson case on the calendar. Uh, and how coincidental. I just look at the timing. Do you think it's kind of curious in the timing between this happening today and Brunson happening on Friday?
I
What
agree.
do you think about that?
It's very monumental.
Right. As they say, there are no coincidences and timing is everything. But, I find it, if the Brunson case does go further, and a lot are saying, listen, we have to just put what's out there in the open source. Two scopes, both scopes. We look at what's happening in reality from the mainstream media that most are seeing, and also what we all know is happening on the flip side, behind the scenes in the alternative media and the narrative that's being played out there. Two different scopes we always have to present this information in. But what we do know is that it's being reported allegedly that SCOTUS has already taken this up. It's gone on a shadow docket. I think I reported that several shows back, and it's already decided. Now, let's hope that's the case. Look, I always hope for the best outcome.
I mean,
That
right?
doesn't mean that doesn't mean it's going to happen, though. You also need to prepare for, okay, what's the worst possible outcome? Again, looking through two scopes and not just down the center at one. You know, um, so I find this very interesting, that this is happening on the heels of what everybody is sitting on pins and needles for on Friday, because we all know that that could mean that they're all out of a job. The Brunson case and a decision on the Brunson case has consequences for each and every one of these individuals, and they could all be out of a job. Now, good morning, NC Debs. Thank you for
Yay.
coming.
Good
Um,
morning.
we all know what this means, uh, if they already have decided it and it's in the background. Now, back there's reports coming out in the open source on the backside with regard to this military action, that when they were convened before, they waited for them to go on vacation. They know which ones are all going to be gone. There are still, there's that saying, there's still a few good men. There's still a few good men in all of these places. Okay.
Absolutely.
We don't want to forget that. But what they're saying and reporting is it made it easier for them because all they had to do was go to their house, serve them with their notices, and retrieve their cell phones from them without there being this big public spectacle of each and every one of them being taken into custody, which not every one of them will be taken into custody, by the way. I know everybody thinks, oh, this is just a clean sweep of all of them. That's not the case. There's different levels of involvement that
Hmm.
people in. And again, this is coming and being reported in the open sources, the backside in this scope that I'm looking in. So these are all interesting variables when you look at it on a whole,
Yes,
right?
NC Deb says things are happening and it's darkest before the dawn. Endurance as it leaks like a sieve. That is the key. The perseverance, the endurance, trying to be disconnected from the outcome and just watching the show. Because that is one thing that I can observe for sure. There's a lot of questions as we move forward in whatever's happening, this great awakening, but the one thing that I feel pretty confident is that we're watching theater, we're watching a movie. What's happening is definitely it feels very what do they call it? Uh Collaborated. It feels very choreographed. That's the word I was looking for. I mean and it makes sense if you think about it, the effect, the mass effect that something like this would have on the general populace. They have to do it this way if this is what they're doing. This is the only way to do it. This is such a shock and awe moment if it actually happens in that way. The Brunson case is such a huge case. I think even bigger than what's happening today.
Right. I think they're, I see, and I think they're both working in tandem. Like you said, a pre-scripted, uh,
Choreographed,
choreographed
orchestration.
scene. And look, I'm right on board with that. And I think a lot of people see it that way also because we're well aware now. And, forgive me for those that aren't aware of the fact that some of these people are legitimately actors.
Yeah,
Okay.
some of them are very obvious to me.
They're
Like
not even the people
Brandon
that
for
they're
one.
presenting themselves to be because of these $30,000 masks that are out there for sale. And when we're talking about stuff that's replayed on the news, CGI. So there's too much information out there for people to debunk that. Don't look at that and say that's crazy. You really have to, uh, uh, you know, really look at it at the big picture
Yes.
in order
Yes.
to
With
evaluate.
open mind. With an open mind.
Yes, with an open mind. Good morning, Charlotte. How are you this morning? Yes, she agrees. Miracles happen. You are right.
I agree. One of the evangelists, I guess you would call him. It actually is somebody I grew up with in the church. He said he had a prophetic dream not too long ago, right towards the crest of the new year, and it was all about miracles. God is going to work miracles this year. I can feel it in my own life. He's professed that to me personally just in the last few days. So I feel it. I definitely feel he's moving. And again, when you're coming from that perspective, anything is possible. I mean, when you're working with God and you're working in God's will, and it absolutely is God's will to get this country back on track. I believe that with all my heart. And when you're working in God's will, miracles happen. It just does. I see it all the time.
It really does. Now, listen, this in addition to, I know there's a lot to be said about the number seven, letter 17, but let's not forget the phrase, a clean house is necessary. I'll buy into that one. A clean house is necessary. Agreed.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
uh, you know, um, it's just amazing. And I do believe in miracles. And, what'll be interesting, and again, we're monitoring it here on the side, but when does this fifth vote take place? Is it going to now be another day tomorrow, or are they going to continue this throughout the course of today?
I mean, there's no way, I have been living since 2016 one day at a time because it's been I can tell you, Liberty, I was awake when Trump was elected. I was wide awake, and I watched this all happen in real time. I cannot believe what has been accomplished. So it's hard to know. It's hard to. I actually don't even get into predictions because it's like drinking from a fire hose. There's so much information. There's so many twists and turns that you could have never. I mean, it's just so fascinating. I'm just grateful to be awake and alive during this time. I say that all the time. I feel so honored. There are so many saints that wish they could be alive and awake during this time. And here we are, and I'm just who knows? I mean, who knows? Our lives can genuinely change dramatically in the next 72 hours. We just don't know. There's no
We
way to know.
right. And what we all absolutely know is that, we're in that eye of the storm. We know it's been that for several months. We also know that whatever happens here today is a good indicator of where things are going throughout the year. But we all know that the can has been kicked and that we're not going to be, see really any resolve until mid-year. They're already putting that out there into the summertime. As far as being able to the optics of this all being shown to the general public. And I think that's where most people's frustration is, in the
Right.
optics of what's happening. But listen, as we speak right now, we all know what the weather is across the entire world. We've got tornadoes happening in Alabama, rain never seen before, and earthquakes in California, uh, snow uh, up in the Sierra mountains, in not only here in my home state of Colorado, but in the North and South Dakotas and on the East Coast. It's massive
It
snow.
is.
So we're seeing these weather anomalies come full circle, and all of these tragedies, although we sit here and we want this to happen today, that just goes to show you how the public is just craving any positive public optical gesture that would actually work in favor of the American people at this point.
Right.
Anything.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's easy to get caught up. This is what I like to remind people. If you've ever had nieces and nephews or grandkids that you visited once in a while that you didn't watch grow every day, what's it like, Liberty, when you go to meet, one of your family members that's got a small child and it's been a few years and you look at this child and the next thing you know they've grown up like a weed. Because their parents see them every day, they don't see the progress. But you see it when and I can tell you this is how I feel what's happening in this country is if we look back, the progress is profound. But because we've been dealing with it every day and waiting and wondering and wishing, we don't see the progress. It's easy for us to get caught up and to get discouraged and think things aren't happening fast enough. But if you look back at where we were just 7 years ago, I mean, we're in a completely different place now. So God, and I also know when it comes to miracles of God, He can change everything in a snap. I mean, just literally overnight in a matter of minutes. He's done it to me over and over. So, who knows? I mean, it's just very exciting to be around, to be again participating in this. I think in the media that we're doing, Liberty, together and separately, and just with with your peace and unity. I'm such a big fan of the movement. We're doing some really powerful things, and I think that for me, the way I reconcile, because a lot of people say, when you start talking about the generals, when you start talking about 17, everybody likes to point to that as being a psyop to keep us on the couch. But the way I reconcile that is I actually get active in my local fight, and that's how I don't. I mean, I can watch and spectate and do all of those things and work at the same time, right, Liberty?
right.
We don't
And,
have to sit on the couch and
listen,
just watch.
to be very honest with you, they're right. These are psyops, military psyops. This is war, and
It's true.
people, are there. Most of America is completely unaware of that. They're starting to see it now more and more, and it will become more public as we move forward. Most of America though, is conditioned to what they've seen in the movies, and
Yes.
they're waiting for soldiers to come in vehicles driving up to their streets, jumping out of back of trucks. And no, no, that's not how it's done. We are in the year 2023. Everything is such in an advanced state that nobody ever has to even fire a firearm.
It's very
Okay.
true.
This is cyber warfare at
Mhm.
its finest. This is bio warfare at its
Mhm.
finest. And the generals have been saying it for months on end for the last 2 years. Okay. This is unconventional warfare. Okay.
It
So
is.
there you have it. Until you go do your research and wrap your head around what's really happening in this country, you cannot understand and you will not understand. And again, it's up to everybody to go out there to find this information on their own. We just bring what's out in the open source to the
Speaking
forefront
of
at this
bringing
point.
great information, there's some really great activity in the chat. I mean, NC Debs is reminding us of the art of the deal, playing on both sides. I know that I read the book from the gentleman who taught Trump the art of the deal, and it's a great book. If you haven't read it, it's a really good book. Art of the Deal and his Trump style negotiation is what he calls it, but it's playing out. This is 5D chess, and if you're privy to what's going on, it's really a fascinating thing to watch. And MC Debs also is talking about an earthquake in Georgia. I had no idea there was earthquakes in Georgia going on right now. So I bet even the mainstream media news is fighting to keep up with everything, right?
Right. And we all know these earthquakes, some are natural and a lot are not. Okay. So, and we're going to get into that in an open source update on a different show. We're just tuning in this morning to try and cover this historical hearing that's taking place to the public. But we have some big military updates of what's been happening in the last couple of weeks that we're going to put out to people on a different broadcast here in a few hours or in a day from now, depending upon uh, things that are transpiring as we speak. But, you know, the good news is this. We all know, especially people who, very advanced people who are into the gematria and the decoding and all that.
Hmm.
The year 2023 in itself is a big number. We all know where that number comes from, the bad side. But what we have to remember is all these Esther moments that we've also been told were going to happen, and the big reversal. That, if you were to put yourself in that context, this is the time of reveal that we're
Yes,
going to now. And most of the bad, and it's really bad,
it
is
is.
going to be behind us. We haven't seen the end of it yet. What we're
No,
going to be seeing in this reversal is the ramifications for some of these individuals that have been involved in bringing us to this point. So, we're looking forward to that.
I
Thank you,
agree.
Miss Martin. Thank you so much. Did you see what Charlotte said? I was
Yes,
watching
I
for.
did. I saw that.
You read that. Oh, Power Girl is here. Thank you. Oh, y'all are so much appreciated. So are you. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Bunches.
Yes.
So yeah, we've got a lot unfolding here. And
Mhm.
as the days progress here, it's going to get more exciting and more exciting. What's going to unfold? We don't know. We
No.
don't know. We're following it. We're putting it all together like everybody else, like we have been for the past, you know, 2 years as this has been going on and all these operations have been taking place. But once we give the military update, you'll see how things are transpiring out on the backside. And, you know, it when you're looking at at the scope from that standpoint, you can see why what's happening in the mainstream media as a matter of optics, i.e., this house vote, why it's so important to get the entire public focused on all of that over here while these very important military operations are being conducted in the background by the United States Marines and others. So this is huge.
I
This is
agree.
bigger than we all could ever have imagined, and we're living through it again. History's being made right here.
It really is.
Uh,
And for those of us that have been able to watch it, it's just been so incredible. And I definitely see the crescendo. And I always like to remind people, when you're God's warrior, when you're a child of the king, you're operating from a place of absolute power because everything that is done against you will be used for you. And that's where we're at right now. We've hit such a momentum now that it really is snowballing, and I'm actually really grateful that they did not do what probably most people wanted them to do, and that is the military presence. Again, I would always remind people, we don't want military, we don't want, what do you call it, martial law. That's not what we want. We don't want to get into martial law. So the fact that they're doing this in the way that they're doing it, I think is actually much more respectful, and it actually feels like it really is white hats, because we don't want the military taking over, not even for 5 minutes, because we were warned back in Eisenhower's days, remember, that we should be wary of the military industrial complex. So the fact that it's happening the way it is really encouraging to me, because they could have easily just wiped it all clean, right? But they're trying to immerse the public in it as well. So they're almost unboiling the frog, right? Because it was a slow decades after decades after decades of conditioning to get us to where we are today, to this great level of evil that we're dealing with. So the fact that the military, the good guys, the white hats, are not just taking over the way most people think that they want it that way, is to me a show of respect for the system, for the populace, for the country. They're trying to keep the peace at the end of the day. That's what they're trying to do, as far as I can see.
well, you're absolutely right on that point. But the fact of the matter is, and when I put this out there months ago, that we had infiltrators within our own military, 20% of the military is cabal. Okay, people have to understand who the players are. They have their own militias and military forces that work on their behalf.
Yes.
20% of the military. And what we're seeing now in these military operations is we're seeing the exposure of the deep
Yes.
state military within our military.
Which
Okay.
is so
And
important. Yes.
yeah, and look, this is very tough for military people, okay, and soldiers. They get in only expecting to protect our country and be this. They don't expect to fight their own, and that's what position they've put into, knowingly or unknowingly, and a lot has been unknowingly because it's these frontline soldiers that are involved in these operations where they're just taking commands and fulfilling their duties. Okay, they're not the ones. They're again. We have to get a military mindset.
For
They're given
sure.
an order. They execute their command and their mission. That's it. They're not conditioned to think of politics, who's involved, where
The
is this
big
coming from.
picture. Yeah.
So this is completely unprecedented,
It
but
really is.
necessary. And we're seeing the ugliness of this play out. We've been watching it for several months. We see now that the information is coming out about Millie, that we know is deep state. Secretary of Defense Austin leading the train, okay, the conductor of the train, and ain't the Unity train. Um, and
Yeah,
it's all
20%
coming
of the
full circle,
military can still do a lot of damage. I mean, look at the damage that's been done since this war, since T took over in 2017. I mean, it's been incredible. It's just been
right?
incredible. But it really does feel like we're winning. I mean, to me, it feels like we're winning, if you just look at the amount of people that have awakened. When I started long before Trump was even running for president, and looking into the comments on, because I really watch social media, multiple platforms. I'm incredibly fascinated with how social media molds our world, and it's very encouraging to see how many people have completely changed their perspective, thanks to the occurrence, what's happened over the last 6 or so years. So I'm feeling very encouraged. I know that God is I mean, I know that God has already won this war. So I rest in peace and I just sit
Well,
here and, you know,
amen.
pay
We all
attention
know
and watch.
God wins. We all know that from the beginning. However, this is it all. This is everything playing out. And, a lot would this is not a movie, people. This is real life
It's real
happening in
life
real
with real
time.
consequences. And
With,
Liberty, you and I were talking offline about some of our personal consequences in this war. So nobody can tell me that we're not at war. I've suffered the consequences. I always tell people, if you've gone through the last 3 years and you haven't suffered any consequences, you might have chosen the Matrix. Because those of
amen.
us who are awake and disconnected, man, we are catching nothing but heck left and right. So
Well, I will tease it with this. The military information that it's no secret about the Pope now. Pope Benedict the 16th that passed away, who was the handler, by the way, of Pope Francis.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
And this man, it was an evil man, and there was all kinds of symbolism over why it happened on New Year's Eve, because he's the head of the Luciferian cult. It's a fact, people. Do the research. I'm sorry to people who are Catholic out there that don't understand this, but I encourage you to research. So I don't want that to be any shock. But the symbolism was all over this. Again, the reversal. He's gone. That's their high day of sacrifice and so forth, uh,
Mhm.
in what they believe in it, in their dark religion. uh,
Mhm.
so the fact that he's gone is almost a reversal of
Mhm.
that. Now, some would say he was gone a long time ago, but that, as far as the public optics are concerned, uh, that did happen. And we saw the Potato Head take his trip for the holidays over to the Virgin Islands. Does anybody think he went there just for sun? There's a whole backstory.
He doesn't
He is
go
visit
anywhere
over there,
with cog.
what
He's
was
not
going
he's
on
not
over there.
cognizant of anywhere he goes. Everywhere he goes, he's led along.
Right. So, there was a whole exchange of uh, uh, deep state players that are desperate for funding. And, there was a lot to take place financially during his business
Mhm.
over there, which I understand was all documented. Again,
Mhm.
being reported, on the flip side. But, we'll be discussing some of these things when we uh, uh, give our military update. But listen, people are getting viral. They
Mhm.
get the news first. They can't wait for the MSN anymore. It's showing uh, the MSN. If you look closely, this could be the very dismantling happening before our eyes, with so many broadcasters exiting, being replaced, naturally passing away, misfall
Yeah,
waters.
I don't think
Uh,
they can fill those gaps quick enough. I think that's part of where the Patriots are really coming in, and I would encourage anybody, that has expertise or inclination to do what we're doing here. It's very powerful. It's time for we the people to stand up. And I feel like Mr. T has really opened the way for us, and now it's time for us. I mean, that's what Brock Maddox talks about. He talks about he did his job. Now it's time for we the people to step up and step into that space. So if anybody listening has, that inclination to get behind a microphone in front of a camera, this is what we need to do to tell these truths, because we can't have enough of us out there.
you're
And
absolutely right.
nature abhors a vacuum, and Hollywood is dying, the mainstream media is dying, in a very profound way. And if that doesn't convince you that something very unique and like something that's never happened before in the history of mankind is happening as we speak, then again, you may have chosen the Matrix, because it's so obvious to those of us who are awake and aware of what's going on.
Right. Let me just give an update on this vote here. We have McCarthy at 201, Jeffries at 212, and again, it hasn't moved any uh, uh, for others. But something did appear on this ticker screen that was new. there's a category they have it: McCarthy, Jeffries, Donalds, others, and then there's a new category: present, present. In other
Huh.
words, somebody present. One. What
Huh.
is that? That's interesting.
I don't know. I mean, this is yeah, it's wow. I mean, I'm learning. I'm in learning mode. Cuz I'm not going to even lie and pretend like I know how all this stuff works. I just watch and yeah, it's powerful. I know whatever I feel like this next week, is a lot has been will be revealed. Again, does it mean that the script is going to be completely flipped and everything's going to go back to normal? People need to let go of the idea of normal. They really need to
Right.
let that go. Because
But
we are creating what I like to say an even better normal. Why would we go back to the old normal? The old normal was a lie. Everything about it was a lie. So now we're looking at wide open road. There's just so much to do. And again, the military and the white hats can only do so much. If you're worried about being lulled into a sleep or being lulled into staying on the couch, then just get up off the couch. That's as simple. It's as simple as that. Get in action, do something in your local community, because I always warn people this federal spectacle that's going on, I'm convinced is partly, if we're looking at it from a black hat lens, partly to keep us in complacency. And so the thing to battle that and is to just get into action. And if it's just paying attention to your school board meetings, if it's just paying attention to your board of supervisors meetings, your city council meetings, just watching what they're doing is number one. Because when you start to watch what they're actually doing in your local communities, bringing in these corrective action programs and things like that, then you're not going to be able to sit still, because it is quite frightening. Again, what's happening on a federal level is only part of the story, because the fight is local. I think they're lulling us into this stupor so that they can bring in the black hats, so they can bring in these climate action programs, which is not what we want for our communities, not even a little bit.
well, we
So
saw all of this in the omnibus package that just passed, the $1.7 trillion omnibus bill. It couldn't get any more blatant and ridiculous than that. And we're voting here locally on whether our kids can have free school in American lunch, free lunch in American schools. Well, we're sending trillions to fight wars that don't even involve us. So, people have really got to get tuned into what's happening. History is being made before our very eyes. We have been in a war that's coming to a close. Let's pray that it is
yes, let's
coming to a
pray.
close. Uh, since 16, 17, 18, 19, almost going on 4 to 5 years now.
And
Uh,
that's on the surface war that we're seeing. How long has the war been fought in the decade, behind? I mean, Liberty, coming from where I come from, what I call Rothschild Inc., because, my company, they were very out and proud about their connections to Rothschild. And it is very much a mindset. And I can tell you confidently, there are good people in these organizations
Absolutely.
that are feel trapped, because they have mortgages, they have kids, that people need to pay their bills. And so we do, as these things start to unfold, we do need to have grace for these people and understand that people can only do so much. God has appointed certain people in areas all over the world to do what they're being called to do. And again, I would just encourage you, if you feel God pulling on your ear to do something, then I would get in action, because the military and T and everybody, they can only do so much. At the end of the day, he meant it, and I felt it very deep in my soul. This was one of the reasons why I was a supporter of his, when he said, "I am giving the government back to we the people." That is what we are working so hard to do on Freedom Fridays with Brock Maddox. I know that Brock is one of the biggest proponents for we the people. I have vetted him thoroughly up and down. He and I have had multiple conversations offline, and I believe he's the real thing in that regard. And just saying, we are all trying to energize we the people, because that's how we're going to win this war. We've got to get people
Absolutely.
awake.
And I love that word you use, grace. And I would challenge anyone to show me in the Bible when the Lord is speaking about grace where it says with conditions.
No.
Grace does not come with conditions. You either give it or you don't. And I'm one for walking that talk, and that's why I created the Hug Your Flag for Peace and Unity online photo challenge. And I'm putting it together a video as we speak, so that we can show that. And I would really want to start pushing that really extra hard. And I'm going to be able to do that on bigger platforms, share that out again, because it's all about peace and unity and grace, and that doesn't come with conditions. That comes with an open heart.
You know,
And I have to stick true to who I am
I
and what
agree.
I do. And what I do, there's places for everyone on the battlefield. Some
Yes.
people are attackers, and that's all it's about. It attack mode 24/7, and those warriors are good. But my style of warrior requires me to inspire and uplift people and give grace without conditions.
I
And
agree.
you
I
know
That's why you and I are aligned, because I feel exactly the same way. When I think of Christ hanging on that cross by the people that he, purported to be the most religious, right? These were the religious people of the day. His response was not to condemn. His response was to forgive. What did he say? Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. That is the ultimate example of grace.
right.
I mean, the suffering that he went through on that cross. I don't think any of
Well,
us. I've been through some
and
suffering, and I
I
still
was going to
couldn't
say, you
imagine
just
that.
mentioned him. We all have our crosses to bear. Let me just pick up on that key phrase right there. And the best thing that you could do is surround yourself with positive people.
Yes.
It's like, okay, this has been a tough road for everybody, but get away from the haters. The first thing people can do
Mm.
is get away from the haters. If it's a Nancy negative and it's constant negativity, you need to remove yourself from that and find a more positive path. Again, everybody has their own style. Some people's style is one way, some people's style is another. I like the peace and unity train that's always open to anybody who wants to hop aboard and ease on down the
And
road.
hop off. They can hop off whenever they
Yeah,
want. That's the beauty of it.
exactly. Or
Get
hop
on board
off.
or get out of the way, as we say in the field. Get
Right,
on board or get out of the way, because this train is coming, and I'm not going anywhere.
right.
I love liberty. I love your style, Liberty. I love the professionalism. I just love the idea of truly walking the walk of peace and unity, actually truly meaning it when we say we are the peace and unity train. I want to demonstrate peace and unity, not just talk about it.
Well, that's a good segue into the promo because we're about to have those Wisconsin freedom fighters come on. I want a promo. We're planning a very special show in our Liberty Lounge with some very special guests. We're all really excited about that. I love all the people who want to participate. It's really just filled my heart that they have such a great response. And again, it's people who are true to grace and peace and unity. So,
Yes.
we're looking forward to that. And, we'll announce a date probably over the weekend. I think we got a couple more shows to do this week. And,
Yeah,
again,
and speaking of shameless plugs, if you're listening and you're interested in the freedom movement, because here at not well, here too at Liberty Cowgirl Network, no doubt. Liberty Cowgirl Network is all about the online presence, creating that communities, the online chat presence, and it's very, very powerful. And I'm also Liberty, you mentioned the freedom fighters of Central Wisconsin, who are freedom fighters in the field, boots on the ground, actually fighting for freedom in real life. And that's what we really like to promote at Power Girl Productions and at Power Girl Power Hour, the YouTube channel Power Girl Power Hour on Freedom Fridays. We are this Friday on the 6th because it's such a momentous day. Not only is it a hallowed anniversary of when our country was basically stolen out from under us, but it's also like you said, it's the deciding of this Brunson case. So we're going to be on panel at 3 o'clock California time, and talking with Brock Maddox and Jake Jackson as always, and hopefully a couple other guests. So definitely check that out on the Power Girl Power Hour. Liberty and I are going to be working together in tandem from now on. I'm fallen in love. I'm here to stay, and when I say that, I really mean it. That's just who I am.
Well, listen, we're glad to have all, I'm big. Listen, I love your experience and love your input, and as I do with all of the ladies. Again, anyone is allowed to jump on board. The more, the
Yes.
merrier. We're about bringing everyone together hand in hand, and I truly believe that can happen. I believe this is the year for it to happen.
Yes.
I believe that people need to serve as conduits of goodwill
Hmm.
uh, to one another, to bring hands together, to make that happen. And we're just going to stay focused on that. And again, away from anything swampy, because we all know the internet is pretty swampy in places.
Right.
Stay away from all of that negativity, because we can't trust where our media is coming from. And just so everyone knows, it was supposed to be the Associated Press and Reuters. That is no longer, but yet they're still out there. And I just want to people to know, because I found this quite interesting. The Associated Press, and if you go and you look them up, they describe themselves just as this. Uh, the Associated Press, news from the Associated Press, the definitive source for independent journalism from every corner of the globe. That's how they tout themselves, word for word. Okay. Well, the definitive source, they're not any longer. Okay. So that can't even be said. Now, when you look at a reporter reporting for the AP and the Associated Press, and trust me, in big corporations, I've been involved in many media rooms. We wait for all the AP reports to come in. Okay, this is what you publish. This is where all news comes from, Reuters and the Associated Press, and then it's disseminated therefrom.
Hmm.
So all of a sudden, we have reporters from the Associated Press. They're putting on their report slash, they'll put AP for Associated Press slash report for America State House News Initiative. Now that's a long one, so let me repeat it. Report for America State House News Initiative.
Hmm.
Well, what does that mean? I never even saw nor heard of anything like that. So let's take it one step further. Well, Report for America and this initiative is a nonprofit national service program that places journalists in local newsrooms.
Hmm.
Okay, so these are all your deep state operators
Right.
being placed within news
Sounds like
organizations.
handlers to me.
There you have it. So just so everybody understands, just because it says it's from the AP and the Associated Press does not make it 100% valid. That's what I'm watching. Where is that authentication going to come from the future, now that we know it's all been a psyop from the beginning? It's
Right.
all been brainwashing. It's all about to come down. Who is going to be the authoritative person to say this is the author? Oh, I can't even say the word. This is where the zone in the office in which we're going to authenticate all news stories.
Right. So the official narrative. This is
Yeah,
the official
it's
narrative.
over. It's over. That's over. There's no control of anything like that anymore, because we all see what's happening.
Hmm.
Nobody can be trusted out there. We have to
Hmm.
go off solid facts, research, and independent journalists who are out in the field
True
documenting these things
grassroots.
as they see them.
Yes, and Liberty, on that note, there's a perfect segue for, if for those of us who don't know what open source is and the power of open source, Liberty, can you tell us why in that environment, why in that climate, why is open source so powerful? Because it's coming straight from the source, right? Can you give a little description just for those that might be new to the idea of open source
Okay,
news?
well, let's take the most obvious example out there right now, the Twitter drops exposing everything that it's exposing. Okay,
Directly from the source. That's
directly
so
from,
that you're not getting it filtered through,
right,
you know,
documents being released, copies of tweets that happened, reports and emails that were digitally sent. There's a digital footprint and a digital ID attached now to all this information that was shared in the open
right.
source.
Because
Okay,
one of the biggest fallacies that I see on social media coming from those who consider themselves to identify on the left, and I can guarantee you if you actually knew what the left was up to, you probably wouldn't identify with them. But for those that actually think they do identify with them, you know, that is what open source is all about. It's coming straight from the source. So you're not getting it watered down through someone's opinion or, you know, through some other news organization or some corporation's idea of what it should be. You're actually getting it straight from, I mean, we get it from the halls of Congress, you know, we get it straight from, you know, their websites. Personally, that's what I stick to. If I ever go over any kind of news, it's either straight from the horse's mouth or it's coming from a reliable open source.
yes, and most importantly, it's not manipulated along the way.
And
Okay,
that's what we get accused of. The alternate media, the alternative media, and the grassroots news, you know, news channels get accused of, oh, well, you're just getting your information off of the internet. Well, first of all information comes off the internet these days. So that's the first gaslighting sign of
I
gaslighting,
think,
and the second one is the ones that I source, the ones that you source, Liberty, are coming directly from the horse's mouth. It is not, it's not up to debate because it's coming straight from that person. You know what I mean?
right, well, I listen,
Am
I
I
just,
describing that correctly?
you are describing it absolutely correct, and Charlotte, you are absolutely right. Words do matter. They
Yes, very
matter a
much.
lot, and words matter coming out of people's mouths too. Uh, people really need to pause before they start let it flowing, because they
They
matter a
yeah, they
lot.
can do damage. They words can do serious damage and leave very lasting marks.
They certainly can, and
It could also tell somebody who you actually are. When you know, that's why I try to listen more than I talk, because you know, people will tell you who they are, and when they tell you who they are, you should believe them.
right. Well, listen, it's been a blast hanging out with you this morning. I want to encourage everybody to look for uh, our military updates and open source. We're trying to get one on the schedule right now. We've got a huge Unity show coming up in the Liberty Lounge with some surprise guests. That's extremely exciting. More than one surprise guest, I might add, a few surprise guests. And we're just really excited about this new
Yep.
year and where this peace and unity movement is going. We want everybody to make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Power Girl Productions, her channel is Keeper of the Flame.
Keeper of the
You want
Flame
to
and
go,
Power Girl Power Hour on YouTube. We're really building Power Girl Power Hour
yes,
right now. That is the one that we're doing some really exciting things coming up in these next few months. So definitely check that out. The Keeper of the Flame channel is all about exposure. That's about our local fight here in Humboldt County and what Power Girl is doing to further that fight. And
and
that
I'm
is more
so
pre
happy that you're
recorded
going to be here to keep us updated on what's happening in
for
Humboldt
sure.
County.
For sure.
And uh, in addition to that, we want everybody to follow Liberty Cowgirl on Getter,
Yes.
follow Power Girl Power Hour on Getter and True Social, both platforms, and Rumble. We're looking forward to doing some really nice broadcasts on Rumble. A couple will be independent of YouTube. We'll come onto YouTube and announce it first, and then we'll switch over to Rumble because we're really looking
Yeah,
forward to
that's our goal for this year is to switch over to Rumble, right? We want to get
all,
off of
yeah,
YouTube.
all of those. And you're absolutely right, Miss Martin. Question everything. Listen,
Yes.
that's where we get where we're going. We always question everything. We always question everything. So we're going to keep an eye. And of course, Representative Lowen Boebert from my state is up at the microphone now. So I know that Cowgirl's giving them some
Woo!
HE.
She is awesome. She is
Oh,
something
yeah. But
else.
listen, it's in the Colorado blood, girl.
That's
It's
right.
in many women our
That's
age.
right.
Um,
Yeah, we're taking over. Hey, that's that. What do they say? Well-behaved women rarely make history, and we are about to make history. We are making history. We are making history.
Yes, we are, and we're looking forward to broadcasting more days now that it's 2023, and we anticipate that a lot of information is going to be coming down the pike at a very fast pace, I might
Oh
add.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And we'll bring some of that to you on the next one. So until then, everybody, Power Girl, thank you for coming and being here today. Looking forward to seeing you on a lot of the sound offs, and of course, we'll join you for your Power Girl Power Hour. And
Let's
we
build
look
this peace
forward.
and unity train, guys. This online community is a very powerful idea that Liberty has come up with. We need to build this audience. We need to become a presence online. And so that people know when peace and unity train's coming down the pipe, you better get on board or get out of the way.
Thanks everybody for coming by today and seeing the report. We'll see you on the next one. Happy New Year, and
Happy New Year.
all the best for 2023, everyone. See you next time.
That was awesome. Wait, we're still on.